So this section is going to talk about quadratic equations, and basically we want to be able to solve quadratic equations. And there's 4 methods we use to solve quadratic equations. The first method we use is going to be based on what we call the zero product property, or the old ZPP. Okay, the zero product property says this: if I have multiplication a times b and it equals 0, so I've got 2 things being multiplied, and when the product is equal to 0, then one of 2 things has to happen. Either a has to be 0 or b has to be 0. The only way to get 0 in multiplication is for one of the factors to be 0. So if you have 2 things that are being multiplied, one of the 2 things, and it equals 0, one of the 2 things has to be 0. Okay, so here's how we use that idea. Here we have a quadratic expression on the left, and we know we can factor that. So 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 12, add to be negative 1. Those are going to be negative 4 and 3. This is a linear or a leading coefficient of 1, so we can just factor it into x minus 4 and x plus 3. So you can check the factoring with FOIL, but that's what we get. Now, instead of having a bunch of terms being added and subtracted, we have multiplication. So because this multiplication equals 0, then this is like the A, this is like the B. One of the 2 factors has to equal 0. Either x minus 4 equals 0 or x plus 3 equals 0. And so in this first equation, we solve it, add 4 to both sides. We get x equals 4. Over here we solve this little equation. We get x equals negative 3. So we get 2 solutions, 4 and negative 3. Now normally I probably wouldn't take the time to check them, but for this first one I'll show you how it works. So if I were to check this to see if my solutions work, which is always a good idea, I would put in 4 and see if that made a true statement. Well, 4 squared is 16. 16 minus 4 minus 12, is that 0? Yeah, 16 minus 4 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0, so yes, that one works. So we know x equals 4, that is going to make a true statement. That's a solution. Now let's check the negative 3. Well, if I put in negative 3, and I'm using this equation, right there, putting in a negative 3, does that work? Well, I get 9 plus 3 minus 12. I get 12 minus 12. Yep, that one works too. So it seems kind of weird maybe that you can get 2 solutions here, but we actually can. So that's how we solve a quadratic equation by factoring. We use the zero product property.